Hey, what's going on, everybody? Come on in. Hey, what's up, FBH10? Robert Lawrence, what's going on? Miss Lady Babes, what's going on? Was that C-Sis Too Sweet? How you doing? Freeman, what's going on? Yeah, man, they canceled my show. I've been a little bothered by it, but we'll get through it. So yeah, can y'all hear me okay? Am I coming through clear? Yeah, I know I go live about once every 6 months, so I have to do this every time. You been better? Okay. Well, it's going to always get better. You know, life is just peaks and valleys. You win some, you lose some. What's going on, Wing 633? But y'all hear me just fine? Am I coming through clear? Yeah, y'all give me a thumbs up or something. But I hope you can hear me. But yeah, I want to talk about the fact that okay, I'm good. Okay, Raven. Yeah, I want to talk about the fact that Lovecraft Country is not being renewed. Hold on, man. Scoot this over so y'all can see my sign. There we go. Yeah, Lovecraft Country is not being renewed for season 2, and you know I've done some digging, and I come to find out that basically it was basically HBO bought the rights to the book from the author Matt Ruff, and that is this guy, right? Okay, Matt Ruff, when he writes books, he normally writes a one-off, and he don't write sequels. So there is no Lovecraft 2 book to go by. Why is this important? The reason that it's important for HBO, because HBO learned their lesson dealing with Game of Thrones. If anybody is a fan of Game of Thrones, then you know it ended terribly from the fans' perspective. Game of Thrones went by the books of George R.R. Martin. For like the first 4 seasons, the script was written basically off the books, and he also wrote an episode each of the first 4 seasons. The author of the book wrote an episode of Game of Thrones, and so after that, the script writers took over, and so the story started to go where no one knew because it wasn't no longer following the book. So everything was brand new season 5 going forward. The reason that's important is the show followed what the writers thought was a good plot for them, but not necessarily what the author would have wrote. And so the show ended, man. It just ended so horribly, and by the time it ended, you were so invested in. It ended after 8 seasons, but you were so invested as a fan that you just had to see it through. And it ended with it was so lackluster that people canceled HBO. I think at the time they had HBO Go. Now they got HBO Max, but before HBO Max it was HBO Go, which was their streaming service. And people were canceling that left and right, man. I think, they may have lost like a couple of million subscribers off that. So, reason why that's important. They've learned their lesson by taking something and building a fan base based off a book, and then allowing a script writer to take over the storyline. Now, there's a lot of ways that the story could have went, especially towards the end. You know, the main character was no longer there, but his son was alive, and we know that because he had gone to the future, and you know, his son wrote a book, and so the story could have went, you know, modern day. It didn't have to stay back in the 50s, but without you having the extensive knowledge of a Lovecraft story and a Lovecraft characters, then you wouldn't necessarily write it like the author, Matt Ruff, did. So in that case, I can understand why it was like, we're going to end it now rather than mess it up. They're just going to leave out on top. And, you know, I hate to hear that, you know, because I was really, honestly, they had HBO Max, and I put this in my story at the time. They had HBO Max during the month of February for like, what was it, like $11.99 or $12.99 a month. It was one of those two, but normally it's like $14.99, and I waited until like the last day of February because it was for 6 months only, and I was trying to get it. I was like, okay, March, April, May, June, July, August. I was like, okay, so right around the time it should be ending, you know, Lovecraft Country should be getting started. This literally like what I thought when I bought it, because I was like, you know, I got apps to where I can see movies and shows whenever, you know, for free. So I wasn't too keen on buying anything else, but it was like, you know, I gotta have it for Lovecraft Country because I want to see it in its original format. But anyway, so I spent money waiting on Lovecraft Country personally. Lovecraft. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the title, but it's from the author H.P. Lovecraft, who is basically the father of modern horror films. He's a legend. You know, basically hey, what's going on, Anush? Basically every film that you see that involves any type of monsters, aliens, I mean, any creatures, probably got its beginnings from Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft. I think he died maybe like in the, what was it, the 30s or early 40s, but he wrote these scary tales like back in the 20s, and his most famous character is called Cthulhu, and you've seen Cthulhu or a rendition of him if you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, you know. And I really haven't paid attention to Pirates of the Caribbean to know all the characters' name, but the captain, the one with the face like an octopus or whatever, that's Cthulhu. That's Lovecraft character from the 20s. So even today, you still are influenced by Lovecraft, and he's been dead and gone, you know, almost 80 years or whatever. I'm not an expert on Lovecraft. I won't claim to be. If anybody is, you know, you're more than welcome to join me and give me a little more information. But based on what I know and what I've been privy to as far as hearing other people talk about him, you know, he was ahead of his time, and there was no one like him with his writings. And some even think that, you know, he was channeling these stories because they were so descriptive and so out of this world. It was like, you know, they were, some people say that, you know, maybe he was going to sleep and dreaming and stuff, and he was downloading information from another dimension, and he was come here and he would write about it. So, yeah, that's him. I have his work here. It's called, his most famous work is probably the Necronomicon. And the Necronomicon itself is something that someone else named for him, and I believe the story is that it's like a collection of stories, but he ended up not it's not copywriting. He made it to where anybody can write about his stories. So you will find maybe 100 different versions of the Necronomicon, and it's just because anybody can write about it. So everybody have their own rendition of where they would take the story. So Matt Ruff, and I think I got this book a couple of months ago for like I think like $9.99 on Amazon or something like that. But basically he talks about towards the end he talks about like how he read about sundown towns, and he says here he learned about Victor Hugo Green's Negro Motorist, the movie that Green Book was based off of, and in that the real life safe Negro travel guide, which was basically like the character, the uncle, that was based off a real life person. So again, it would be hard to keep the story in its original, intensity if you just have a whole new writer starting from scratch. It would only be so much they can do. So I believe that the executives at HBO, they really had a hard time looking at the fact that the show was getting, the show got great reviews, got millions of viewers every Sunday, and they're all about money. So you got this big fan base all of a sudden, and it's like, well, we only paid for one book, so basically we only paid for one season. And I think it's the fact that as TV watchers, we all are conditioned to think that if you say season 1 of anything, if you say season 1, then the fact that you say season, we're automatically conditioned to believe that, there are going to be more seasons. Like right now, it's the season of summer. The season of summer comes every year. It's repetitive. So when you say season 1 of anything, naturally you think that, there's going to be a season 2. It may not be a season 3, but there's at least going to be a season 2. I would rather they, said something from the beginning, like, this is the one and only season. And in that case, it's like, okay, going into it, that, okay, let me not get too attached to these characters. I can just, enjoy it for what it is. But the fact of the matter that you kind of, let it grow and fester into now. Because my thing is like, why say it now if you knew that there wasn't going to be a season 2? So that to me tells me that you were thinking, you were contemplating like, should we have a season 2 or not? But, I'm guessing that Misha Green, she was the I don't know if is the executive producer or it's her show, however her title is or whatever. But I know they started on it trying to come up with a script back in February, and now it's July, so I'm guessing that the script wasn't, up to par with the first season. So in that case, it was like, it's best to just, cut it now and just be through with it versus going into it and possibly having a disaster. Again, that's what I think. Just looking at the fact that, like I said, when Game of Thrones ended the way it did, HBO Go lost so many subscribers that they really had to rebrand themselves HBO Max. They had to bring Cinemax into the picture, and because everything they're doing, with Warner Brothers, as far as allowing their feature films or new movies to go to HBO Max for the first 30 days and the movie theater at the same time. They're doing a lot to try to get people back into the fold. So money-wise, it's like, it probably would make sense to even risk people leaving again. Don't nobody want the wrath of Black Twitter, okay? Black Twitter's acting a fool right now off the fact that the show is canceled. And Black Twitter is not necessarily Twitter. I'm Black Twitter based on the stuff that I post about the show, okay? So Black Twitter is anybody. But it's called Black Twitter in this case because it's mostly black cast, so they call it Black Twitter. Yeah, man, a lot of people are upset about it. It came out of nowhere. Like I said, I was looking forward to this fall because I think the show started in, was it like October? The end of September, October? Something like that. Okay. Pretty Fly Bling, you hoping that she secretly continue to develop and maybe we'll get it on. Nah, it's no secrets now. Like I said, first of all, she don't own the rights to it. HBO own the rights. So if HBO own the rights, they get first right of refusal in most cases. Which means that even if they don't want to do it, you have to show it to them first, and they be like, okay, I don't want to do it. You can take it somewhere else. So, but I'm not a fan of big budget shows going to other platforms. I'm not. And the reason why is because HBO spare no expense when it comes to producing their original content. So the amount of money that HBO put behind their original content is, they're the reason that Netflix is willing to spend billions of dollars, because HBO has been doing this, since the 80s? HBO been doing original content since the 80s? Well, at least that's when I first noticed. Maybe they were doing it in the 70s, I don't know. But HBO original content is like no other. So you definitely want to make sure that anybody that would try to pull something off is of HBO's caliber, meaning that they've been around for decades. They have, they have money in the pot specifically to create new shows. A Showtime, which is a subsidiary of CBS, they may have that type of money. I would say Cinemax, but Cinemax and HBO the same thing. So, but it's not that many. There's not that many outlets that's been around for decades, and they have garnered that much money, that much. Look at how many stars they have made. Everybody from the cast of Game of Thrones is pretty much a star now. And that's just off. That's what HBO do. That's what HBO can bring to the table. Do I think they should have brought Matt Ruff in to continue writing? Well, he was in. I think he's an executive producer on the show. Matt Ruff was there. But the thing, you may have missed it earlier, but the thing is that Matt Ruff, the author of the book, he don't write sequels, man. So he hasn't written a sequel, put it like that. Matter of fact, here it is. I'll read it. It says, I'm not a big fan of sequels in general. I believe that a story that's properly told ought to exhaust the potential of the idea that gave birth to it. That said, Lovecraft Country may be an exception. I do feel like I have more to say with these characters, but that's not why I ended the novel the way that I did. Yes, the heroes have won a victory, but they still live in America, and the decade ahead is going to be very turbulent and dangerous, and a dangerous one. So to wrap everything up neatly would have seemed false. The Turners and the Berries and the Dandridges aren't going to live happily ever after. They're going to continue to struggle. What makes the ending hopeful is that, as we've seen, they have tools to deal with adversity. They have each other. They know how to find their way. And so, if you can see a little bit of that. Yeah, that was just, he's up to it. But the thing about it is that, like, I don't know how long it takes him to write a book, but, creative people, you can't rush creativity. They kind of, they kind of get into it when they feel it. maybe, like I say, if HBO was going to just do by one book, they should have just made it known at the beginning that, hey, this is a, you know, one season type thing. But the fact that they waited up until now to say they're not means that they were considering trying to move forward without having a book to follow. You know, um, yeah, he was before his time, and that's the thing about it. Like, if he wrote it before his time, he only wrote it for one season. You see what I'm saying? So, and that's why I brought up George R. R. Martin at the beginning, because he already had 4 books. Game of Thrones books were written in the 90s. So even when he was writing an episode per season on the show, he was still writing, a new book. What is it? The War of Winter, or something about winter. But anyway, he writes full books. He gives so much details to each character to where it's like he has to go into that zone and complete his book. And the fact that they had him writing a book, where he was writing a book and he was trying to write an episode for HBO on those commitments, it was just too much of him. So after the 4th season, he wrote the episode 1, 2, 3, and 4. In the first 4 episodes, rather, he wrote one episode. And after that, the writers took over, and are you saying that this novel was a decade in the making? I hope, man. I hope that's not what you're saying, because if so, geez Louise, man, that further, that further, supports what I'm saying. Like, you can't rush creatives. Like, if you write novels, then you get inspiration however you get inspiration, but it's not anything that you can do like, okay, you got 7 months. Some people can, now, don't get me wrong, but for most people that are true creatives, they move when they're expired, not by a deadline, because that's mainly why they writers, because they don't like to work on deadlines. They like to work on inspiration and things like that, so just like an artist, they only paint when they, are inspired to, or even musical artists back in the day, not now, because nowadays these guys rap 24/7. But they will only record music or write music when they felt inspired. So, but yeah, man, Lovecraft Country. It I think maybe it was maybe 1 or 2 episodes in before I took a look at it. But it was like, once I took a look at it, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And I bought this book. Honestly, I just wanted to know more about Hippolyta's story. But because for me, man, her story is right up my alley. I'm like, that's it. That's what I want to see. I want to see her and what she's going through. And, like anything, the book is always going to have more detail than a show or a movie. So, but yeah, man, if you guys, have watched the show and you want to know more, this book will give you a whole lot more information. It is around 400 pages. Yeah, it's close to 400 pages. Not quite 400, but when you're reading, it feels like 400 pages. I can tell you that much. But yeah, I definitely hope you're excited to see what Misha does next. This show definitely raised the bar for black horror. I think it raised the bar for a lot of things black. I mean, definitely black horror, but for me, I saw the horror factor. I saw the spirituality factor. I saw the magic factor. I saw the rebellion factor. It hit so many. It touched so many topics at one time, to where it was like, it covered child abuse, if you want to go there. Um, with what's the dad name? George, I think. Or was that the uncle? Was it Uncle George? With Michael K. Williams, Omar from The Wire, whatever his name was in the show, but dealt with child abuse, dealt with you know, LGBT, and it seemed like you can't get a black show without that being in there somewhere. So it's like, anyway, I don't know much about Misha Green or what she's done before this show, so I can't say that I'm a fan of her work or not. I can say I'm a fan of the show, and I'm a fan of the author writing, and I'm a fan of HBO. So if that makes me a fan of her, then I wouldn't say that. But like I said, I don't know what she's done outside of this, but I'm pretty sure that she has some sort of track record if they gave her the green light. Another thing about it is, what's the sister, Ruby? Isn't that the sister name? The sister, and because me and my wife, we've been watching Loki, and she like, where do I know her from? I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't keep up with these people, And then it finally hit her, like Lovecraft Country. I'm like, sure, yeah, that sure is her from. So she's in Loki too. B-15 in Loki plays in Lovecraft Country. So if you haven't seen Loki and you haven't seen Lovecraft Country, then what are you doing with yourself? Like at this point, what are you doing with yourself? These are great shows. Yeah, man. So that's what I think happened. I just think they didn't want to drop the ball again like they did with Game of Thrones. Also, now back to Game of Thrones. George R.R. Martin, he's been writing, I want to say he's written, is it 2 or 3 books? I can't remember. But anyway, I know that, they're coming out with a Game of Thrones prequel. Like, I think like at the end of this year or the beginning of the next year. So everything that he's been doing is leading up to another run of Game of Thrones. So if you guys didn't watch Game of Thrones, first of all, something wrong with you. I just want to put that out there. Something wrong with you. You may not know it, but something's wrong with you. Game of Thrones is the best show of all time. I said it while it was on. I'm saying it now. You have never seen anything like it. It's the writing is amazing. The characters, best show of all time, hands down. That won't change. Only thing you do is match it. You can't top it. But yeah, they are going to do a prequel, and I think it's going to be like 300 years prior to the Game of Thrones we saw, and it's going to be back when the Targaryens, everybody had dragons, so it's going to be like, I think they said like it was between 7 and 9 dragons. I can't remember the exact number, but it's on YouTube. You couldn't get into Game of Thrones, not your cup of tea. But Lovecraft Country is your cup of tea. But Game of Thrones isn't your cup of tea. See, you are already confusing me with that. Because, outside of intercourse, they didn't do anything on Game of Thrones that wasn't done on Lovecraft Country. And even Lovecraft Country has some sex scenes, so I really don't. You need to give that another shot. I'm telling you right now, you need to give that another shot, and you need to just. It's easy to get lost because the cast is so big now. I will tell you that. It's easy to get lost, and that's it's one of those shows to where once you're done with it, you will find yourself going back to watch other previous episodes because it's so good, or you will find yourself getting maybe on episode like, what are they talking about? When going back to episode 2, so definitely, yo, give Game of Thrones another shot. I'm telling you, you won't regret it. Nobody I know has ever seen Game of Thrones from season 1 through season 8 and was like, oh man, that was whack. It doesn't happen. You can't watch it and be like it was whack. You know, you can not watch it and be like, I don't get it. That's different. But you can't watch it and not look forward to the following episode. You know, because it's so many twists and turns. Anybody ever read the book 48 Laws of Power? The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene? Has anybody ever read the book? Either read a book or have read some of the laws in the book to kind of know the gist of the book. If you have, then in my opinion, Game of Thrones is the visual of the 48 Laws of Power. So if you know how that book operates, then that's Game of Thrones in a nutshell. You know, so that's a good reference point. You know, and if you haven't read 48 Laws of Power, again, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. And that's just on some, adult, living in America, you definitely need to read the 48 Laws of Power, because it tells you so much about how other people think, to where you would never live your life and know all these laws enough to notice when someone's doing it, even if you don't want to do them. And I wouldn't encourage anybody, pursuing, trying to do these laws on people. But if you don't understand how sinister this country is and how sinister people are, then this book will definitely, bring some light to how things really operate, But anyway, that book, to me, is like a real live version of the real world. But Game of Thrones is like a fantasy version of that book. And I'm pretty sure the author didn't write the book. I don't even think 48 Laws of Power was out when he wrote the Song of Fire and Ice. So, but if you read The Prince by Machiavelli, who wrote The Prince? Was it Niccolo Machiavelli? And you know how he was in that book. That's kind of like the same principles that the 48 Laws of Power based his book. Robert Greene based the 48 Laws of Power off of. It was that mind frame. I'm looking at my bookshelf, trying to see if I have that book. But it basically was a book about power, and basically like how to control power and how to control people. And it was real deep, and it's not a book that a casual reader would just pick up and just be like, oh, okay, that was cool. Nah, you got to be a thinker to get some of this stuff. But once you get it, it's a whole nother world, So again, watch Game of Thrones, okay? Watch Game of Thrones. Watch how it ends. And if you wasn't in real time watching it, then the reaction of it, you would have to look at all the reaction from everybody being pissed off at how the show ended and how the White Walkers end, and I don't even want to think about it, man. I turned on the first episode the other day. I've been on vacation this past week, so I turned on the first episode, and I didn't watch all of it, but it's just one of those shows that even when it's over, you're gonna find yourself going back to it because you still are connected. It's totally different than like the Marvel franchise, as far as, you may feel connected to Iron Man, and this is different. Like, it's, you really, cause they're like regular people. They're not any superheroes. So the story itself and what the people go through, you feel more attached to it than, somebody flying through the air and, moving things with their mind. But I'm trying to see. Hold on, guys. Hold on 1 second. I'm still here. Just 1 second. I'm trying to find this book real quick. Anyway, no, I don't see it. I don't see it. Sorry about that. But anyway, this book, 48 Laws of Power, if you know this book, or like I said, have read it in depth, then you would notice so many laws being applied in Game of Thrones. So, and a lot of this stuff is, psychology. So there are reasons that people were so attached to that show. I don't know where my book at. The Prince. Anyway, but yeah, I've had this book since like 2005, and as you see, this is the result of me reading this book that many times. To the point to where I can spot when a law has been applied, even if I'm not involved. I can spot somebody else applying a law. So that's what I mean. And by doing that, you're able to enjoy different shows on a whole different level. Besides just, okay, entertainment is cool. Hey, Toyo, Angola, what's going on? Angola, where is Angola? Is Angola? Angola's in Africa, right? Isn't that? Yeah, Angola. That's the country that's. Yeah, because I think I remember the lady comparing. That lady, the white lady that does all the. She does the racist like test on white people, and like I think her name like Jane or something. It was like like the brown eye test, the blue eye test, and anyway, I remember her showing like the map of the world. What is the Mercurian map? The map that we all grew up looking at, where Greenland is like the size of Africa, and she said she broke down how Greenland is really like the size of Angola. But Jane Elliott, thank you, Joe's Coffee Shop. Yeah, and she broke down like how Greenland is like the size of Angola, and so Angola always stuck with me for that reason, because I'm like all my life, being a kid, I'm like, dang, Greenland is huge. You're a little kid, everything is, big to you, but it was like to become an adult and realize like, hold on, you mean to tell me that Greenland is the size of one country in Africa? Wow, that really, that really was a letdown, but it just goes to show, yeah. But anyway, Angola, that's my memory of Angola. But again, watch Game of Thrones if you have not. That's your homework assignment. watch Game of Thrones. I mean, the hype is over. You don't have to wait every Sunday like all of us had to do. You don't have to wait when the season over and find little groups and talk about the same shows over the whole summer and just wait for it to come back on the next year. And I mean, it was really sad, man. We really went through a lot. Every season waiting on the show. Every Sunday, everything's stopping and everybody go watch the episode. And then like at, what was it, like 10 o'clock, you know, everybody get online or whatever, be like, man, did you see this? Did you see that? And even, I was so pissed that last season, man, to where it was like, people started getting a hold of leaks. And, you know, they would have footage, or they would have like kind of like they're doing now with Marvel. You know, they would have like the script on what's supposed to happen. And they actually would have footage because somehow they were getting the footage from like Spain, HBO Spain, which aired it maybe like, you know, a day before the States got, or however it went, you know, hours before, whatever. So I will see the show before the show aired here and be like, oh man, you know. So it became so big to where people were doing anything to get the fix, like they need it now. So, but like I said, they ended in such a disappointment to where the fans were like, never again do we want to go through anything like that. So that's why I believe that Lovecraft Country is only down to one season and one season only. They don't have another book. You know, they only bought the rights to this one book. They don't have book 2. And just going by however the script was going from February through June, it wasn't going, you know, good enough for the executives. I'll say that. So they had to make a decision. And oh, it says so right here. Misha Green, creator of Underground. Okay, nah, I wouldn't watch that. I don't watch slave movies. That's me. I'm done with that shit. I don't do no slave movies. No, none of that, you know, Butler. Nah. I don't do no, you know, further indoctrination of me being a subordinate. I don't do that. So I'm not watching Underground. I'm not watching Runaway. I'm not watching 12 Years a Slave. I'm not watching, you know, whatever it is. I'm not doing it. You know, that's me. I'm them days over. You know, those days over. And the fact that you keep trying to remind people, nah. I know this book backwards and forward. I know the bigger picture. I see what you're doing. Okay, so I'm not the one. But yeah, that's what it is. They have no more content. Matt Ruff, God bless his soul. If he only had another book or 2, then we'll be good to go. We will be good to go, but he has nothing else. So, do anybody want to come on with me? Do anybody know anything about H.P. Lovecraft that you can enlighten us? Because I don't. I told what I know, you know, about the Necronomicon and Cthulhu, you know, but I don't have. But he is the father of, that's why it's called Lovecraft Country. What was it, Howard Philip Lovecraft? But he is the guy that we have to thank for all of the modern horror films, because he was writing this stuff in the 20s, and I think he was writing for like some magazine or whatever, and he would write these stories, and you know, they stood the test of time. So, but anyway, that's what I got, man. I'm gonna try to go live a little bit more. Hope you guys like my Moth Getting shirt. I opened up my Funko box just for you. It's a brand new shirt. Open up my Funko box. Where is it? Here we go. Yeah, he got the black lightsaber. Glows in the dark, supposedly. So I'll see how that looks later. But yeah, man, that's all I got. So I appreciate you guys joining in. This official Black Panther fan club signing off. Lovecraft Country. Peace. Now y'all know I don't go live. I don't know how to do this stuff.